On program.
We got to address the moon in the room. We got Plagueis. Were we expecting Plagueis here? I thought that would have been a neat oh crap moment at the end because it could have fit just as well there. What do you guys think that they stuck that in the middle there? How do you feel about that?
It was weird.
Yeah.
And I don't know much about Plagueis, so like I haven't read the Legends book, shockingly. But yeah, it was just weird, and I feel like the way they did it brought up a whole host of other questions that we
Delightful
now need to
ones.
continue to address.
It was a dangle for sure. It was like, we definitely planned on another season. Please let there be another season.
Yeah.
I appreciated that it wasn't just another end of episode cameo because they did that anyway.
I'm not gonna lie, I was still focused. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I was still mostly focused on the Chimera and Osha banter. So.
Oh, where is it?
Not to mention the big sex scene where the fingers touch.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. No, they boned when you graded on the curve of Star Wars. Yeah, I'm the questions that this raises, I don't want to spend 20 minutes on it right here. We'll do it at the end of the show, or we can do it next time if we want to. But the questions that this raises are legion. I'm so excited by it. I've disappeared. Not sure why. But someone else
use that other camera angle. Come on, you got two cameras. What are you doing?
You want to just stay locked on this one?
Yeah.
Stay right here the whole time.
You can count your nose hairs if you look up a little.
Yeah, I think my camera died. So why don't you guys tell me what you're thinking about Plagueis while I figure this out?
I don't know anything about Plagueis. I thought he might be a mind flayer. I was like, those are in Star Wars now? Yeah, ain't no way.
I thought they did a good job of making Muun look creepy because, like, if you've ever looked up his species before, they're not the most intimidating looking creatures. Granted, I mean, if you saw that thing walking down the street, you'd be like, ew, oh my gosh, stay away. But in terms of Star Wars creatures, they're kind of dopey looking. Yeah. And boy, this guy was like very Cthulhu-esque, like super creepy. Very excited about that. I think a lot of the questions I've been talking about is, do we think that Plagueis is behind all of this? Like, is Plagueis the one the witches worked with and they made a deal with the devil to create these twins using the Virgins or whatever? Did they do this to try to help, like, continue their cult and make more followers or whatever, pass on their teachings? Or were they doing it and is Plagueis studying it? Because at some point we know Plagueis, at least old canon was, spoilers, Plagueis was trying to create life using the Force, and he was successful, but he didn't know it. So he was intentionally trying to create Anakin, or what, who we knew was eventually Anakin, but he didn't know that he was successful. So it's interesting whether or not we think that he is learning about this stuff from them, or if he's the one, like, if he's experimenting on these random witches and like, he's just like messing with them to try to figure out how to do this himself intentionally. Because I think it's fair to say May and Osha might have been a failed experiment. They're a split personality. They're two halves of a whole. They're the same person, and that's probably not an intentional outcome.
Yeah, Plagueis is crazy, man. I heard every bit of that, and let me tell you.
Yeah. So, Ed, do you think that Plagueis created and helped the witches create Osha and May, or did Osha and May, were they created by the witches and Plagueis is like watching them and learning how this happened? I don't like that path personally. I was much prefer that he was the one who taught them. I feel like that was even implied in the first couple episodes when they're like, what if the Jedi find out what we did? Like, I felt like the witches knew they were working with the Sith and they were sort of cutting a deal with the devil. But I also feel like Osha and May are a failed experiment. They're a failed version of what they wanted Anakin to be. In fact, the witches seem to be aware of the prophecy and what was going to happen with Anakin, because they talked about exactly what happens later. It is their best intentions were going to kill every Jedi in the galaxy. To me, that seems like something Plagueis might have told them, because maybe this was all intentional from Plagueis.
That's true.
That's the beginning. True. Like, this was his whole plan, was to fulfill the prophecy for them in a way that would be entirely self-destructive.
It could 100%. It could 100% go either way. my hope is that he's seeing it and then perfecting it himself to use it for his own ends. But I 100% see, the breadcrumbs that were left. And to your point, like usually when there are breadcrumbs, leading you in a certain way, that's where the show is going to take you.
I just
like,
don't like the idea that, and people have said this before, that Leslie Headland is doing something this way, but like I don't like the idea that she would just invent these random witches of not even the Night Sister vein that we've heard before, but like we invent these witches and we invent this idea that they were the ones who figured out how to create life with the Force, and then Plagueis learned it from them, and it sort of undermines his evil masterminding and the Sith as a whole. Like I'm not saying it's bad, they can do it well. I just don't love that idea. I like the idea that he's sort of meddling in their lives and trying to help them out, or they think that they're being helped, and in fact he's using them, because I don't want to lose track of who the real bad guy is, and I don't want to give too much credit to these random witches we know nothing about in the middle of nowhere, and they just like figured out something the Sith couldn't figure out.
I feel like this show has done a really good job of that, though, like as far as not losing sight of the main bad guy. Like, as many problems as I have with the Jedi and Soul, and there are many, right? But then the minute you start thinking, oh, I don't really know, then the Sith like murders 8 people. You know what I mean? Like it's so good at that, like the recalibration. I am not worried that, like when you see Plagueis, he just exudes evil 100%. Andrew says, well said, if Plagueis is using them as their guinea pigs. So he's in agreement. It would be very in keeping with the rest of this show. And so that, that's why I was saying, like, I have a hope, but I think the breadcrumbs are there, and this show has not been one to subvert expectations when it properly lays breadcrumbs. Up in Smoke points out he doesn't like Ki-Adi-Mundi. I didn't really like Ki-Adi-Mundi as a character; just dropped in there, didn't need to be there. Not for me either.
There were so many other long-lived Jedi we already knew about that could have been there.
Give my man Yariel Poof some
Yariel
love.
Poof, come on, yeah.
Quarmian.
I want to see all 4 of his arms,
Quarmian, count me in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right. On program. Wow, what a conversation that was. I'm glad I found this. Apparently, this is just a clip from a larger show that's live every Friday night. I don't know about you, but I'm going to subscribe so I can see more videos like this one. Hey, let's both like this video, to boost it in the algorithm, and then we can ring the bell so we won't miss the next one.
Good job.